I am aware that I can now say, I like this pattern. I don't like that one. I like this pattern. I don't like that one. And to make the choices to actually change that behavior.
Hello, everyone. I'm Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritual Inspired podcast. Welcome to a new episode. Please don't forget that you can find us these days on Gnostic TV, and you can watch some of the old episodes on both the Conscious Awakening Network and YouTube. My guest today is Susan Corso. Susan, welcome back to Spiritually Inspired.
Thank you so much, Claudiu. How are you?
I'm great. It's been, I think, 2 years since we first talked on this podcast.
That long. Wow. Okay.
Yes. And, I am sure that we are both different people today. Much have changed in our lives since we last talked. So I would like to know, in what direction do you think you developed more, you grew more?
Oh, what a good question. One of the things that I've noticed recently is that I'm noticing my own behavioral patterns in a way that I never have before. And I don't uh, I am aware that I can now say, I like this pattern, I don't like that one. I like this pattern, I don't like that one. And to make the choices to actually change that behavior because it doesn't support myself or how I want to be in the world. So more often than not, it actually has to do with what I've been working on lately, which is energy leaks,
Hmm.
which is why we're talking today at all. So that's what it is where am I letting myself put energy into things that it doesn't belong there?
And based on your experience with clients lately, what are their energy leaks? What is the common denominator for them?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'll tell you, the the simplest, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Um, the simplest way to answer that is that people are constantly saying no when they mean yes, or yes when they mean no. More often, yes than when they mean no. So the energy leaks that I'm talking about are things that we love to say, oh no, it's just, there's just all these distractions. I get all these notifications, or I get too many emails, or I get this, or I get that. Distraction happens right here and only right here between your own ears. Now, that's a hard thing to own and to honor. And the reason that's hard to honor is because then that makes the distractions your responsibility, right? Well, when I have a client that I've been seeing for a long time, for example, who's not actually doing the work, they're kind of coasting along. That's when I go, no, stop. You are out of integrity in our agreement. And how I know that is because an appointment is coming up and I'm thinking, oh, I just have to listen to her complain the whole time, right? We love to complain, Westerners. Why? Why? Who set us up that we have to be in resistance to something in order to feel alive? That's not how it works here. That's not how it works here at all.
So, in other words, you feel the energy of your client even before you have the call, and that motivates you to be, very upcoming and even motivate that client even more. Is that right?
Yes, and to be clear about it, right? The one of the most common energy leaks that I've discovered is email inboxes, right? How many people do you know who open their email and they go, "Oh, there's 7,850,922. Oh God." Well, yeah, okay. And you have some say over that.
Yeah, only two are important. That's it.
Well, and would you rather feel bad every time you open your email? Ugh, I wouldn't. Or would you rather stop, figure out what the energy leak is, right? And the way you figure out an energy leak is, where do you feel it in your body? And it's a physical sensation. So if, for example, the number one reason you don't answer all your emails is because you have to say things that you don't want to say, you're going to feel that in your fifth chakra, in your throat, right? If people are accusing you of things and you feel defensive, you're going to feel that in your second chakra, in your belly, right? Or if people disempower you, you'll feel that in your third chakra. So it's to become aware of yourself. Energy management is something that human beings need to learn how to do. And it's so weird to me because, excuse me, most of us don't even know we have an energy system, let alone that we can manage it. You know, if you know that you have a performance review on a particular day, like in a corporate setting, and you don't do those well, right? Oh my God. Boost your own energy by using color, imagining color. If you have to ask for a raise and you're scared to ask for a raise, turquoise all over your throat, right? Or bright yellow, like egg yolk yellow at your solar plexus, so that you are strong and you're clear. We all have the power to change our own energy. And what it does, fascinatingly, is if you work at the level of energy, you help your entire being heal. And that's what I think is the most important thing about it. Nothing in our lives is really disconnected from anything else. So that when you have a sinking feeling in your stomach on Sunday nights, right? Because you have to go to work on Monday and you don't want to, let's just call it that, right? What do? Well, maybe you have another martini, but I don't recommend that as a solution. What I think you should do is get clear about your energy. What is it that you don't want to do on Monday? Right? Why don't you want to go to work? And if you don't want to go to work, let's have a look at that. Is there a way to make it so that you do want to go to work and would enjoy it and feel good about it and be empowered with it instead of, but I think Westerners, we are programmed to complain, just like we're programmed to find out what's wrong, right? People don't ask you, Claudiu, how are you? What's right today?
Yeah.
Do we? No one
Yeah.
asks you that. I want to know what's right. That's much easier. It's much happier. It's much lighter. It's simpler. What's right? No. We're taught to think only about what's wrong, as though life is a troubleshooting exercise. It isn't. It
Yes.
just isn't. So that energy leaks thing is something that most of the people I know on the planet anyway are exhausted. They're working too hard. They're too busy. They're saying yes too much to too much and not enough no, right? They're in resistance somewhere. Whoa. Take your own energy back. And if you actually understand how the energy system works, you know that, yeah, you have a circulatory system and you have a skeletal system and a respiratory system and all those other systems. But the energy system is the one that powers all of them. So things get better. I actually was working with someone to clear out an email inbox, someone who had a bad knee problem. And she was going to have surgery on her knee. She was, going to have a knee replacement. And once she got her email inbox cleared out, which I recommend that you do, at 15 minutes a day, don't do a big old project, right? Because there's no way to sustain that. This is not big gesture stuff. This is not big change. Oh, well, I'll just do everything different. No. Real change is slow, gentle, and incremental. And it takes time to assimilate. Because if it doesn't, it's not permanent, right? So this woman works 15 minutes every day to clear out her email inbox. She figures out that she can cancel most of her notifications, right? It is not the end of the world whether you know whether Saks Fifth Avenue is having a sale or not, right? You don't need a notification for that. So she canceled most of them. Well, there went a lot of the distraction right there. Anyway, but it took her about 3 days. Eventually, her knee stopped hurting. And she didn't need the surgery.
Wow.
Well, yeah, when you're actually taking care of yourself, then you don't need drastic things like surgery, hopefully, unless you're terribly sick. And then you can even use energy stuff to help you, right? So email inboxes is one thing. But now most people have an email inbox at home or 10, right? Lots of different email addresses.
Yes.
And one at work, or 2 at work, or 5 at work, right? So here you have 15 accounts. No wonder your eyes are spinning in your head. No. I honestly think, I don't know, call me conventional, but real life is much simpler than we make it. It really is.
Yes, we really complicated things by, accumulation in general. And because you mentioned corporate, I think, and I'm in that boat as well. It's a double-edged sword, because if you complain too much about the overload of what you are doing, in time they might find someone else to replace you, and this is common practice these days. At the same time, the corporation is paying lip service that they want balance in our lives. Some of them do really apply this type of approach, others don't. So it's a very tricky situation, because then the stress from not having a job and not being able to pay your bills gets even higher and then heavier. So again, it's a very fine balance.
It absolutely truly is. And nothing is ever in perfect balance, Claudiu. Nothing. No. But it's like the Tai Chi, the yin yang symbol that you have, the black
Yep.
side has a white dot and the white side has a black dot. Well, we love to see that as a beautiful image, and it is a beautiful image, there's no question, but it was meant to indicate something in motion. That energy is always changing, right? I mean, you can't walk in to a grocery store and not have your energy meet the energy of other people. Somebody put that lettuce in that bin. Somebody put the Campbell's soup, tomato soup right there, right? So you're interacting with energy all the time. How do you use your energy actually to help you, not hurt you? Well, the first thing I think everybody has to learn to do is become conscious of their own. How am I energetically? Am I leaking all over the place, emotional and crazy and upset and hurt, and the whole world has to hurt if I hurt? No. If I'm having a hard time, I keep that quiet. It's not to say that I don't get help, I do. But my whole world doesn't have to be about that. Now, I have to tell you, when I was in my 20s, the whole world was about how upset I was. I promise. But you grow out of stuff like this eventually as well. Okay, wait. I don't need to have to spend a whole lot of time in emotional recovery, right? Not necessary. Not necessary for anybody if you'll tune into your energy. So there are several things, feelings in particular, that will make you hopefully look at your own energy system. The first, all of them are negative feelings, right? Bad feelings: guilt, worry, fear, shame, blame, doubt, all the ickies, right? In the most grown-up session, right? All the ickies. But everybody has those feelings. The question is, do you fall into them? Do you stay with him or do you go, oh, I feel ashamed about that. And that reminds me of the time when, and you learn, oh, this is activating an old experience, not the experience that's happening now. I don't have to let this throw me off my pins. I don't have to let this unbalance me or hurt me. We have a lot more say in our own energy systems than we know. And the core of an energy system is, of course, the chakras. There are, in my world, there are 8 major chakras. 7 of them are internal, from the base of your spine to the top of your head. They go along the colors of the rainbow. And the 8th one is in front of your thymus gland outside your body. It's meant for immunity. It's keeping you safe in the world. Now, there are a lot of things that make us unsafe, right? Some of that happens in between your own ears, but most of it is there. And the times you actually aren't safe, different than feeling safe. You know, when you're on a sidewalk in New York City and there's a Bengal tiger in front of you, you're scared, right? That's not safe. But most of the time, there's not a Bengal tiger. There's something that you internally are fearing or shameful about, right? It behooves everyone. You know, it's not a mistake that it said over the temple at Delphi, know thyself. Know thyself. When you know what your own patterns are, what your own speed bumps, I guess is the, you know, when you know, okay, you know, there was a guy in seminary with me who always put me down, no matter what. And oh, it made me mad. Talk about resistance, right? Ed was his name. And finally, one day I looked at him across, you know, the cafeteria at school and I went, ugh, why am I giving so much energy to this? He disappeared. From here, he disappeared. It took me a long time to figure out what the resistance to that was, which was a teacher that I hadn't liked in grade school. Well, grade school was rather a long time ago for me. So I don't exactly think about those teachers every day, right? But I figured it out. I tracked it through. Oh, okay, right? So many of our reactive feelings we learn when we're really, really young. So one of the questions I've learned to ask about energy leaks is, how old is let's say it's you, is the Claudiu who's having this leak, right? This energy leak. He might be 6 and scared to go to school for the first time. You know, you just don't know. But that tells you something, because the grown-up person who's doing something that is scaring him is bringing up that 6-year-old, right? You can take care of your 6-year-old easily. You could probably take care of any 6-year-old easily, right? You'd solve the problem. I don't know, give them ice cream and put them in front of a Barney video, you know, whatever works, right? So the point is, we have a lot more say in this. We have a lot more input than we think we do. And that's partly social conditioning and cultural conditioning. I don't know if you're following what's going on in the U.S. election cycle, but it's a circus. It's a bad circus. It's not like a fun circus. You know, this is not beautiful horses, you know, riding around a circle. No, this is a lot of crazy. Well, I know people who are always tearing their hair out over what's happening in the news. And I just have to say, honey, turn it off. Don't read the newspaper. That doesn't mean you can't figure out what's going on in the world. But if you're going to have that kind of emotional reactivity to it, that's not good for you. And you know what else? That's not good for the rest of the world.
Yes, especially that it's a selection, it's not an election. So those who are awake know that. And going back to your grocery store example for a moment, it's funny that you mentioned that, because my mom, I was talking to her like 2 weeks ago, and she said, I went into this grocery store and I felt so depleted of energy. And then while talking to her, I said, yes, so what? said, "Oh, you know why? You know what? I'm not going there again because if I go to the other store, I don't feel the same." So she decided not to walk into that particular store anymore because that will bring her energy level down. So I'm glad that she consciously realized that.
There is a particular sort of variety store, general store that I very much avoid, and I'm not going to name it. But the reason I do is because to walk into it is to feel so much financial fear from people that I can't shop. I can't think. No, no, no. I don't need to be afraid like that. No one needs to be afraid like that. So, but it is, no one can do this for you. I mean, it'd be amazing, Claudiu, I could go to the grocery store with you and I could read your energy, but I've been doing this for 40 years. I have a little bit of experience, right? But most people, the only thing we know is that something doesn't feel good. A lot of times we don't even know it's energy. We don't even know it's an emotion, right? Or it's a thought we're having. I mean, I believe that human beings are fourfold: body, heart, mind, spirit, right? I don't think it's body, mind, spirit, because where's your heart? I don't think it's spirit, soul, body, because what's a soul? We use all these words like we're like everybody knows what soul is. Really? You ask 20 people on the street what soul is. They don't know what soul is. I can tell you what it is, but I went to seminary and I spent the time to figure out what I believe it is. I believe that soul is mind and heart combined.
Mhm.
That's where you learn. That's where you have your karma. That's where you have your problems. That's where you get to be better at being you, is in your soul. Your soul goes with you. Your spirit goes with you wherever you go. Your body, you get a new one every once in a while, right?
But
I love that your mother figured that out, and that's amazing.
yes, and you mentioned soul, and this is a perfect segue in my next question. In our first interview, you shared the dramatic event of your son's death at birth, and the journey of his soul. So, in your practice recently, with everything that is going on in the world, have you encountered souls that decided to um, go out and shorten their trip on Earth and return from where they came from?
Yes. And I think that that's happening more and more. I think if you notice, there'll be a lot of times celebrity deaths will do this. There'll be three all in a row, right?
Mhm.
So Maggie Smith died. God help us. Minerva McGonagall cannot be dead. Um, uh, Chris Christopherson died, right? And a dear, dear friend of mine in New York City died, all within the space of 2 days. I thought, oh, okay, there we go. People are leaving because they feel several things. Either they're tired of working here, right? Or they feel they can be more effective
On the
elsewhere.
other side, yeah.
Right, exactly. So I think I do think that, and I also think that that's why there is a movement for conscious dying and the choice to die, like people who have been diagnosed with terrible illnesses that only get worse and worse and worse and worse. I can understand why someone would say, oh no, I'm not putting my loved ones through this, not to mention myself. Western medicine, as miraculous as a lot of it is, and some of it really is, a lot of it's pretty ugly and really painful, right? I think that's what my mom did when she died. My mom had had cancer, she'd had surgery, and they didn't know how they were going to fix it, fix the cancer. And they said, we can probably prolong her life for a couple of years, but her quality of life is going to be awful. And I thought, my mom thought, I'm not doing that to my kids. No. And she died. And I was grateful to it. I have several people in my life who either have a spouse who has Alzheimer's or dementia of some kind, or parents who have dementia of some kind. And that one is awful. And what I think is happening with those people is that their motherboards, their brains are melting. It's too much information. They can't figure out how to do life at the pace that we're living right now. Too fast, too much, right? Which is why, I mean, here's another thing about energy leaks, and I love this, right? I think one of the major points of noticing energy leaks is an expression a lot of people use all the time these days, which is MYOB, stands for mind your own business, right? Well, and usually it's a brush off, cut it out. That's not your business, is what we're saying. No, I don't mean it that way. I don't mean it that way at all. I mean, if I am minding my own business, I'm paying attention to my energy and how I feel. And I'm going to trust that you, if you need some help with some of your business, are going to ask me.
Yes.
I don't have to figure it out myself. I don't have to do your inventory or do your job, right? It's why it always makes me laugh when people say to me that they have trust issues. In relationships, I was going, yeah, no, you don't. Because the truth is that trust issues have nothing to do with trusting other people. If you have trouble trusting other people, it's you that you're not trusting.
Yes.
How are you untrustworthy? And when you start to trust yourself again, you won't have those troubles in relationships at all.
Yes, and you're right about the mind your own business. I had a discussion with my wife, I think a month and a half ago. Friends of ours going through a rough time, and I asked her, should I reach out to him and offer some advice? And she said, no, he knows where you are. He knows your phone number. If he needs help and considers that you can help him, he will reach out, but stay on your bench. Don't move. I said, okay, I'll follow your advice. And she was right.
Well, because I really believe this is a hard one, but there is such a thing as readiness, right? And humans make neurotransmitters that stop us from being in pain. When you meet that Bengal tiger on the sidewalk and it bites you, it hurts, right? So you have endorphins that fix all that, and you don't have to, it doesn't hurt in the moment. Now it will hurt while it's healing, but your brain gets flooded with chemicals, right? But emotionally, or when someone's having a hard time, or when someone's struggling, they're ready to talk about it or to work through it when they're ready. And until they're ready, you thinking they should be ready, okay, great. That's luxurious. But in fact, that's not your business, right? If your friend, and I think your wife is 100% right. Absolutely. Mind your own business. I also think, you know what else, Claudiu? I think that people's dreams would come true a whole lot more if we would mind our own business. I'm in the middle of writing my 43rd book.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's an achievement.
Thank you. And I'm very excited about it. And I have a romance series, a historical fiction series. Actually, one of them, several of them recently have been #1 on the Amazon metaphysical fiction list, which is very exciting. And I never set out to be a best-selling author. What I set out to be was an author who did what she was meant to do, which was write. And I started thinking the other day, wow, what it really is people say to me all the time, how do you make time to write? I don't make time to write. I don't make time to breathe either. I just do it because it's who I am. It's how I figure out the world. And what's fun about much of the fiction that I write is it takes these sorts of energetic practices, but it puts them in fiction, right? So you see characters living the way we want to live, which is really why I started writing at all, because I couldn't find any books about people who wanted to live the way I wanted to live, right?
Yes.
I found plenty of books about people who wanted to do drama and make messes and have upset, but I didn't want to live that way. It's exhausting.
Yes, and in fact, I wanted to ask you what brings you more joy, writing or being medical intuitive?
Oh, geez. Um,
I know it's a
it,
tough one.
it is a tough one. I'll tell you why. Because it's the same thing, but with different software,
Mhm.
essentially, right? It's hardwired for the same thing, which is to bring to bear. One of the things I wanted when I was a young person, like maybe 5 or 6, was to figure out a way that I could make decisions and live based on my true self, right? Not what the world thought, not what society told me I had to be, not what my brothers thought, not what my parents, how did I want to live in the world? Well, eventually I found metaphysics. Metaphysics is basically the science of meaning, is what it is. So I didn't want to live in a place where there was no meaning. Well, if meaning is the goal and the tool is metaphysics, right? Then in writing, I write stories about people who live metaphysically so that we can learn how to do that, which is very exciting. And with medical intuition, it's to give meaning to suffering that more often than not, as when someone finally comes to me as a medical intuitive, what they've found is that doctors and medicine have let them down. And I don't criticize medicine when I say that. There's all kinds of medicine: Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, and Western medicine, and they all have their specialties and their blessings. But sometimes, and we lose sight of this, right? Because medicine these days is called, in the West, is called evidence-based medicine, which is, of course, all about the data, right? Well, no, your numbers have to be between this and this. Well, except that every one of us is an individual. No one would ever mistake you for me on the street, nor I for you, right? Well, we're all individuals. Yes, we have all the basic same components, but they're all put together a little differently. So someone who's sent to me as a medical intuitive, they've come through all kinds of medical things and discovered that there is not an answer. They haven't, the Western doctors haven't figured out how body, heart, so heart, mind, and spirit, how they fit with body. But that's what I do. So this happened many years ago, but an opera singer came to see me once, and she had lost the top half of her range. And no one could figure it out. She'd been to ENTs, she'd been to fancy dancy this is and that, and she'd gone to Europe to get help, this and this. Nothing was working. And so she came to see me with a big old shopping bag of skepticism. And I listened to her talk. She told me about what's happening. And she had all these concerts to sing over the summer in Germany and in Austria and in Switzerland. So she was going to lose basically her annual income if she didn't figure out what this was. So out of the clear blue sky, I said to her, if I ask you a question, will you tell me honestly the answer? And she said, sure. Like, what do I have to hide? I said, yeah. How old were you when you had the abortion?
Wow.
And the first thing she said was, no one knows that. I told no one. How did you know? Well, I could hear her energetically that she was suffering from terrible unforgiveness, but it was her own unforgiveness, right? I said, you forgive yourself. I said, how do you know? And you can have your own opinion about abortion. Everybody does, no doubt, right? I have mine, but people do have abortions, and they have actually since the Egyptian civilization. So that there's a little bit of experience there. And I said, you don't have to suffer for what you did. How do you know that soul didn't come to earth for the few weeks that the child was with you, the energy was with you, and get exactly what that child needed. You may have served a vital purpose for a soul. So I said, I suspect that if you'll just forgive yourself, you'll be just fine. So I said to her, te absolvo, which is what a Catholic priest says.
Mm-hmm.
She was Catholic, raised Catholic. No longer Catholic, but it didn't matter because the Catholic was still here in her brain, right? And within 10 days, I think, she could sing again. So that gives meaning to the suffering. And she could go on. We do that all the time. We throw up roadblocks. I mean, it's funny. That's why I say it's so good to know that we throw up most of our own energy blocks, our own energy leaks to prevent ourselves or to be safe or to not have to deal with some feeling or whatever. When in point of fact, your feelings and your thoughts are not, you're not going to die from any of them, right? You're just not. But when you feel bad, and it really is just when you feel bad, it's worth going, okay, where am I not taking care of me? Or where am I expecting somebody else to take care of me? And it's not their responsibility, right?
Yeah. Susan, I know that during on September 11, you were in New York. Um, how did you feel the energies at the place during that time, and how you perceived them later on if when you visited again?
I lived in New York at the time and in New York City, and I was half a mile from the World Trade Center. So the emotional energy of it was so conflicting that it was hard to stay clear because there was great malevolence, there was malintent on some parts, right? There was great fear, there was outrage, there was all this complicated, contradictory stuff, but the overall feeling was New Yorkers pull together when things like this happen. I had to I lived on 20th Street and I had to walk to 86th Street to go see a friend. And that's 3 miles. And I had my cat with me. He was quite old. Charles, his name was. And so I put him in the cat carrier and I said, Charles, we're going to walk to 86th Street. And a cab, like within 2 blocks, a cab pulled over and said, is that an animal? I said, yes, it's my cat. He's old and I have to get him out of this burning because you could smell plastic burning. And the man opened his car door and said, get in, I'll take you. That's the overriding energy of 9/11. Now, as time went by and there were fewer and fewer survivors found, people went in and out of despair. They went in and out of deep hurt. How could anyone treat another country this way? And I think what it did was it brought up in almost everyone, because my practice was full to the brimming after that, a terrible feeling of vulnerability. Just, oh God, if this can happen, what else can happen? Right. And New Yorkers pulled together and we helped one another. And I mean, one thing after another worked, right? I mean, people asked me for years afterward, where was God? And I said, every single time I said, you know, that 66,000 people work in those towers And that day, as sad as it was, 2,600 people died. Do you realize that that's less than 10%? I'll tell you where God was. God was making everybody late to work.
Yeah.
Right? And people told amazing stories about cars that wouldn't start, and then an hour later they would. I mean, like crazy, crazy stories. Now, what it has left in its wake, which is a very different thing, it's now 23 years later, is a little bit of that sort of a residue of vulnerability. Excuse me, some outrage, but a deep, deep feeling of hurt. The way that the families of the people who died have been treated by the government is dreadful. Those who were there and who helped in the rescue effort and made incredible sacrifices. A lot of them got very, very sick because of the things that the buildings were made of. No compensation has been dispersed for that. So there's a sense of deep unfairness because of it. Here, these people sacrificed their lives, and there should be compensation for that. And the government should have been writing those checks from the next day. And it's now 23 years later, and there are people who haven't been paid. So that's just sad, right? But 9/11 was a departure. I mean, you know what? It was unheard of. And a lot of people took it personally to heart that it meant that they themselves were vulnerable, which is a scary thing to carry. Because, of course, we love to pretend like we're not vulnerable. But I mean, you know, watch one of those car crash dummies in car movies, you know. Oh my gosh. People are vulnerable. People are delicate. People are, I mean, yes, we're sturdy and we're strong until we're not. Right? So we love to live as though we have no vulnerability. Please.
Yeah. And the reason I ask you these questions because I recently had an interview with Ria Loveguard, and when she travels, the first thing she does is tapping into the energy of the place she is about to land onto. And even on her native Poland, she says, especially in certain cities, she said, I cannot stay there more than 2 days because the energy is so heavy. I have to move out of the city, go to the countryside. And she, yeah, goes where her energy resonates with. So,
Well, and cities are like that anyway. I mean, one of the strangest things to me when I moved out of New York City was getting to know my neighbors. I never knew any of my neighbors in New York City, not one, in all the years I lived there. Just, you know, you work very hard to keep your own personal space when you're that close together. I don't think I would like to go back to living in New York City again. That would be hard for me. I like living in a house with, you know, rooms and doors and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. You know, Susan, some of my guests, when I interview them, they say, I come from the Pleiadian families or the Syrians or the Arcturians. And I'm curious to know if you identify yourself with such a family, soul family, or not.
No, I think I came straight from God to remind humanity that it's all going to be okay. And I don't need those metaphors to explain my own alienation here. My alienation is very clear to me. And the alienation is I want things to be good and right and kind and honorable and gentle on this planet. They're not. They're just not. So somebody has to come here and seed that. And I mean, I should tell you, oof, I have a terrible temper, Claudiu. Don't cross me. You do. I'm a redhead, for heaven's sake. Even if my hair is white now, you know, whoa, no, 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 no. I have a really clear temper and very strong boundaries. No, that's not acceptable, right? But I also have a commitment to the fact that whether I agree with you politically or not, whether I like you or not, whether you smell good to me or not, it doesn't really matter because we're all here together. And if we didn't have something to do together, we wouldn't be here. If you didn't have some purpose to fulfill here, you wouldn't be here. It's that simple as far as I'm concerned. So I'm here to remind people, no, wait a minute, we're connected. Many years ago, I said to someone, the most important word in every language is and. And a friend of mine drew an amazing piece of art with that quote on it. And it's true. I think that we get in more trouble when I say, okay, it's you or me. No, it isn't. It's you and me. And the minute it's you and me, there's acknowledgement, there's connection. I mean, I can see the smile on your face, right? You have a sparkle in your eyes when it's you and me. Well, just because I disagree with you doesn't make that and go away. I think that we are meant to learn how to work together, how to help one another, how to be together, and how to take care of our home together. And you don't have to do it the way I think you should do it. You have to do it the way you think you should do it. So, for example, I am not a person who is going to go march at a nuclear plant. But whenever I can, I plant a tree. Trees are really important to me. I love them and they soothe me. I like trees. There's something about trees. In fact, a redwood tree helped me through my pregnancy. So bottom line, I take care of the trees and the people who care about the trees. And if you want to care about something else, that's great because everybody needs to care about their own thing, whatever the thing is that makes your heart go, yes. The other thing I care about is peace. But I don't mean world peace. I mean, world peace is a lovely idea. Don't misunderstand me. How swell. But I think that world peace is impossible unless we have inner peace. And that's why I'm talking about energy leaks, because energy leaks take your peace from you faster than anything else, right? If you can learn to hold on to your own energy and not siphon it away, right? The difference is amazing. Your sleep is better. Your digestion is better. Your thought process is better. Your emotions are clear. I mean, one thing after another cleans up if you are energetically responsible, right? I know that sounds so esoteric, but if you learn how to do it, excuse me, you can pay attention to your chakra system and know immediately what's going on, right? You know, if you have a sense in your chakra on the front side of your body, it has to do with your future. On the back side, it has to do with your past. Okay, what past? How far past? Is it your left side or your right side? If it's your left side, it's feminine. If it's the right side, it's masculine. Okay, let's look at that. And so to begin to listen to and heed your own energy is hugely empowering. And if we all did it, our planet would balance out. You think about this. The planet is, you know, originally it was called global warming, not climate change, right? But okay, I'll go with the vocabulary, climate change, right? But it's warming, team. It's warming. So what is happening emotionally to most of the people on the planet? They're angry. Of course the planet's warming. Anger is warm, right? What solves that? The resolution of anger. What is making you angry and what will resolve it for you? What will bring you peace? Because the more of us who are peaceful, the less the climate will warm, the less fewer disasters there'll be, and the better off our planet will be. I know it.
Yes, unless we intervene, artificially and make changes as the governments always do, but that's a different story. Susan, what are your plans for the remaining of 2024 and into 2025?
Well, I need to finish book 43, and I have a brand new series of books called Prismatica, which is a retelling of the AIDS crisis. And I don't know if you know anything about the AIDS crisis, but essentially science, medicine, research, social services, all the things that are supposed to help human beings failed them. So I'm going to rewrite the AIDS crisis as though everybody did the right thing instead of the wrong thing, and see what happens then.
Are you going to interview Dr. Fauci, who was the originator of that disease, or?
No, but I am going to write about Dr. Fauci.
Oh,
And I wrote about Dr. Joseph Sonnabend the other day, who was one of the pioneers of AMFAR, the one who actually co-started AMFAR with Matilda Krim. So there's some real people in it, and then my characters are in it. So I'm going to finish that. I'm thinking seriously about actually creating a whole series of courses on energy leaks, but micro courses. So a course that you could take in, say, 45 minutes. Think about just this one thing. Okay, so there'll be one class on your inbox, and one class on your body, and one on relationships, and one on money. There'll probably be 5 on money, right? But so that people can start to really work through their own energetic blocks. And of course, I don't know if you know this, but I have 8 workbooks called Energy Integrity. And energy integrity books are for you to learn your own chakra system. They can be found on Amazon as print books. And if you are in a market where you can't buy them as print books, you can get them as ebooks on my website, susancorso.com, so that as people start to take more responsibility for their energy, all of life is going to get better. I really believe that's what's missing from the equation here. So I'm going to be doing a lot of writing. I have some clients, but mostly I'm teaching or doing podcasts or writing.
wonderful. And I encourage everyone to go back and listen to our first interview where Susan talks extensively about the chakra systems and the books she just mentioned. So, Susan, any final words to put an end to this lovely discussion?
Yes, I say your wife was very, very wise to tell you not to interfere with your friend. Mind your own business, everybody. If you mind your own business, your dreams come true.
Thank you very much, Susan. All the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Claudiu. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. And to my viewers, thank you for watching. Share it, leave a comment, follow us on Gnostic TV. And until next time, love and gratitude.